They ain't looking for nothing. They're lazy, and I know they're lazy.
You don't have to be lazy though. You can stop
No, I'm
by
telling you,
and
they're
forge a
lazy.
relationship. Get yourself on the brochures. You make sure that they know to call you the next time some travel show is
But what if
coming into
somebody?
town. You talk
What?
about you want to be,
But hold on a second
you want
now.
to increase your profile.
But
Get
hold
on one of
on.
those travel shows. The next Anthony Bourdain or whatever. He came here when he was doing his show. Anthony Bourdain came
Right,
here
right.
to Ben's Chili Bowl.
Yeah. But wouldn't it? But again, and I think there's a certain accountability that you have to have. But anyway, let's not talk about that. Say,
Are
let's
you
get
sure they
down.
can hear us? I don't
Yeah,
know.
they can. If y'all can hear us, if y'all can't hear us, if you can hear us, give a thumbs up or one or two. Put a one, and if you can hear us, if you can't hear us, put a two.
We can go to the park as well if that's easier.
Uh-huh.
We can go to the park as well if that's easier. Isn't there a park there?
No, there's a thing down at the subway. I'm sure they can, man. Cause I did a thing before, and they were people were listening. So if they can't hear, they'll let us know. They'll let us know. But again, this is one of the things that I think we need to start some more dialogue where white people and black people can get together without all the bullshit and sit down and talk.
I agree. See,
You know?
I've always had close black friends throughout my life, but you wouldn't know that from what the media says, but roommates when I was in college, friends early childhood, so it's no problem for me
So
at
how
all.
come none of them never rubbed off on you?
Of course they did. It's the media's portrayal of me is totally illegitimate. So you should know from the time that you've spent with me
Right.
that I'm not like a crazy person
So
like they
so
portray.
so why do you think they want to portray you as that monster?
Well, I mean that's very complicated. It's partly like I was saying is that there's a push right now to really demonize white people, and white people are becoming like are being treated like Muslims were after 9/11. But also, I think that there's a lot of white liberals who are
But
pushing.
these are white people that are treating white people bad.
I think that that's predominantly it. A lot of people claim to have grievances against different groups, blacks, Jews, whatever. But for me, I think that it's white liberals that have like this really toxic hatred for themselves, and they're overcompensating for their guilt for stuff that happened even before they were born by discriminating against other white people in the present.
But you've always had the upper hand, Jason.
Me personally,
No,
no.
no, no, no. White people have always had the upper hand. Come on now. Come on, Jason.
Well, as a historian, it all depends on the context,
No,
how
they've
far you
always
zoom out.
had the upper hand.
No, the white people have been slaves too. They were,
When the white race has been enslaved.
yeah, they were enslaved by Muslims.
Jason.
You didn't know that?
Jason. Jason.
You didn't know that the
Jason.
Islamic slave trade enslaved Europeans?
Enslaved European.
Yep,
When
it's
is
true. Look it up.
When was that?
Well, you're the historian.
No. You telling me, you giving me some
I don't
information.
know the exact dates. I know that the Islam. I'm not
But-
sure what the dates that the Islamic slave trade was in operation, but that was
And why
a
we don't know
historical
that
fact.
history, Jason?
Because it's inconvenient. People want to emphasize the victimhood of certain groups and de-emphasize the victimhood of other groups. It's just like what I was telling you about with the terrorist attack in Waukesha, where the individual who had posted all these threats towards white people ran his SUV into a Christmas parade and killed a bunch of folks,
And I
including
think
little children.
And I think he deserves everything he gets.
But the coverage of that is not at all what it would be if there was white supremacists who drove into a crowd of black marchers or something like that. You know, because it's just politically inconvenient to emphasize.
Is it politics or is it money?
I think it's politics.
You know, because now think about this. I want you to think about this for a minute. Okay? People are not gonna pay money to see what some black man did. You understand? That's not gonna generate income. But and besides, in this day and time, after George Floyd, no, that's not gonna generate income. So the thing that can generate money right now is anything that has to deal with white supremacy. Okay? It's y'all the money bag right now. You the money bag.
Well, that's what it goes back to what I was telling you about.
See, so it's not about politics. And I'm telling you, and as soon as the narrative change, they'll throw you aside like a wet dog, man.
Well, I do agree that there's a lot of money in portraying white people as the new terrorist threat. You know, there's a ton of money that was going into
but some of it is true. Some of it is true.
Well, true in the sense that there are white people who are terrorists, just like there are people of other races, religions, and creeds that are terrorists. But why focus on a specific one? It's because of the political component, which is related to the money, like you said.
But who's in control? White people.
No, I don't think that it's that simple. I think it's more about political ideology.
Jason, who's in control?
The far leftists, the people that are
and they are what? White.
No, not just white. They're also far leftists that are Jewish
and what color?
And
what color? How
Indian
many
and
black Jews
else.
do you know?
Well, I don't know if there are any black Jews, but I'm just saying. My point is.
No. How many black Jews do you know?
I think I've heard of some musicians that are
okay,
like
so,
that,
so,
but I don't know any
so,
personally.
So when you speak about Jews, you're talking about white folk.
Well, no, I'm not trying to single out any group of people. I'm just saying.
But I'm just
all
saying.
I'm saying is they could be Indian, they could be Chinese,
when we use
they could be anything.
No, I understand. But when we use the term Jewish, we're talking about white people.
In the black community, that might be true, but I think that.
What is it in the white community?
Well, it depends. I mean, a lot of people aren't aware of that. You know, even in the black community, I think that it's there's different kinds of thinkers. Like when you talk about black nationalists, like Malcolm X, he's probably more aware of the distinction between other European groups and Jewish groups.
Yeah, but what I'm saying, I'm strictly speaking of America. And when the term Jewish is used, we're talking about white people.
Some people are and some people aren't. But I mean, it's a lot of folks consider it to be. I mean, it's clearly in some cases a distinct religion, and in other cases, you know, it's a distinct cultural and ethnic heritage. You know, so.
Okay, and the majority of these people are what? White folk.
Well, if you're talking about only their skin tone, yes, they have a white skin tone, but that doesn't mean that they're necessarily the same, because you know people are not always skin deep.
But they pass as white though.
That's true.
They passing as white. So you know how am I supposed to? That's what you passing as. And believe it or not, it's a lot of black folk passing as white.
Yeah. Well, I think you know.
You do know that,
if you can pass as.
But you do know that.
If you can visually pass as either one ethnicity or another, you kind of have a choice in which one you want to present yourself to the world as. And I think that's a common thing. And it's just like what you're talking about. Hold on, let me finish my point here.
Okay.
It reminds me of a book that my mom was telling me about. She was assigned for her book club, and it was about like two sisters that are like part white and part black, but they're like very light in skin tone, and how like one of them basically married a white guy and chose to live basically as a white woman and no one could tell the difference. And then the other one married like a dark-skinned black guy and basically lived as a black person. So this is kind of a similar thing to what you're talking about
Right.
with Jews and whether they choose to live more as, like a Jewish person distinctively or whether they're just like another white person. Because they can pass as that, and that's sort of their choice.
Right. And see, again, we go back to mindsets, man. We got to deal with the mindsets that are passed down from generation to generation, subliminally. There are things about you that have been passed down, man, that just automatically a part of your DNA. You know what I'm saying? Because it's been passed down.
And that's as it should be. We should all be a product of our ancestors and of our heritage.
But then, why? How do you feel about CRT, critical race theory?
I'm opposed to it.
Why?
It's anti-white. It teaches hatred towards white people.
It teaches hatred toward white people.
Yeah, and their history.
Okay. How do you feel about the history we're teaching?
Of what?
The history that we're now teaching. How do you feel about that?
Well, I don't have kids in the public school system, so I'm not intimately familiar with what they're teaching, but I would say I pretty much disagree with it. I think that they're moving in a direction which is anti-American.
No, listen to me now. I'm saying the American history that we now teach, how do you feel about it?
I don't know exactly what they're teaching, so I couldn't say that, but, it just depends.
Take what you was taught.
History is always really complicated, and I think that that's the best way to teach it. Like, it's not that America or white people or anybody has never done anything wrong, but and they shouldn't be presented that way. But on the other hand, it's not like any other group is some like perfect angels either. Everybody has made their mistakes, and I think that that's part of the lens through which liberal white America is trying to teach history is by trying to present it as simplistic, like white people bad, other races good kind of thing.
Do you think the current American history that we teach is flawed?
See, I don't know. You'd have to tell me about a specific.
No, I'm saying just.
I don't know. I'm not in this public school system
I'm just saying, go back from what you learned. Do you think the American history that you learned, was it flawed?
Well, I graduated from high school over 20 years ago. About 20 years ago.
Right.
But at that time, it was fine. I think maybe it was like erring just a little bit on the side of like jingoistic or. Very.
So you think the American history that we've been teaching,
but that's probably appropriate that you would have a nationalistic tone for the country in which you live.
But you think the American history that we've been teaching has been pretty much correct?
Well, it's.
We're still teaching Columbus discovered America.
I think it was correct. I don't think it was the full history, though. There's a lot of history out there.
So if it ain't full, then it's not correct.
That's not necessarily true. There's, like, history, just like everything in our reality, is like a diamond. It doesn't have just one side. It has infinite sides, and you can turn it and see it from many different angles.
Who told you that?
That's just something. That's just common sense. I've read many books.
I don't know who told him that, but that don't make no sense right there. Jason, that ain't making no sense.
Well,
how you gonna? No, man.
I think what your point is that a lot of the history that you like to teach on your tours is different than what they teach in a typical.
Was never taught in school. Most of the stuff I teach on mine was never taught in school.
And that doesn't mean that either that history is incorrect. It doesn't mean your history is incorrect. It means that they're different aspects of the same thing. There are so many facts. When you've got a little kid that's in a school, you have a very limited time to teach them things. And I think that the idea of the history that you seem to have a problem with is that it's overly rosy, optimistic. It's has a lot of national pride, whereas you want to focus more on the things that we've done wrong.
Well,
And I think that
this
that's
is what
probably something that most parents don't want to start with for
this
their
is
kids.
what I- this
they
is what
want
I've
their
noticed.
kids to be proud of the good things that we've done and start with that, and then you can add some shades of gray and even some of the darker hues to our
Okay,
past.
this is
as
what
they
I've
get
noticed.
older and are able to understand that more.
Okay, so but this is Jason. This is what I've noticed. History doesn't start until white people come on the scene.
Well, because we were writing the history. I mean, what language were the Native Americans writing their history in?
No, but I'm just saying it only starts when they come on the scene.
Because we were keeping records.
Is that what it was?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it's not that simplistic either, though, because there are other written records from ancient history, but that weren't from, Europe. Like the Chinese have a long history of, of writing down their past, and so we have a lot of documents about ancient Chinese history. But some cultures not so much. Probably not as much in ancient Africa. Probably not as much in ancient North America. It all depends.
Man, do we have anybody? Nobody's saying anything, man.
Yeah, I don't think they can hear us.
And I got 4 people on. Somebody would have said something if they couldn't hear. If they couldn't hear, they would have been. They'd have popped up. We can't hear nothing. There's one thing about that.
What you need to get a microphone that you can attach.
Yeah,
and just plop that sucker down right.
Yeah, I get that done. They give me some money.
It's not too much. You can get a nice mic.
Yeah, but no, but this
person says they can hear there. So
oh, okay. Yeah, they can hear. I told you. You see, but we gotta most folk when they look at history, they look at it from the current mindset that they're in. They don't take under the consideration of the mindset of the people in the history where we are. And see, we have to go back and look at when American history was written. What was the mindset?
But see, I've read the types of history that you're talking about. You're talking about, for instance, like Howard Zinn and people's history of the United States that goes into, the history of black people in America or Native Americans and stuff. So I've read some of that stuff, and I totally know what you're talking about. I might not be an expert on it to the detail that you're talking about, but I understand that there's people who feel like they were left out.
And this stuff wasn't taught in school. It's not, it's not taught in school. You see what I'm saying? And critical race theory is only a concept. That's not a course.
Well,
it's just a concept.
I remember being taught about certain black figures like Frederick Douglass that I don't know, for whatever reason, were just decided as being like the best moral exemplars for the nation. So I think that what the kids are getting in school is like the broad strokes of things. And they want to focus on people who are of great accomplishment, of great intellect, that people can be proud of and look up to. So I think that's a big part of why they don't focus on some of the darker stuff that you're
So is that fair?
Well, I think that I'm positive they teach that in the universities. Look at when people go to the universities, they often have a very extreme reaction where people.
They don't teach them shit in the universities.
No, they have some really extreme.
My
teachings
grandson was a
university.
freshman at The Ohio State University. First time I went up there to see him, he was like, Granddaddy, I saw a sign that reminded me of you. And I looked at the boy, I said, boy, you smoking reefer already? He said, no, quit playing. There was a marker for the Underground Railroad. And we're reading the marker, and it says, this is 4 of 5. He said, there are 5 markers. When we found marker number 3, a black lady and her daughter was walking by, and she was a graduate in African American Studies from Ohio State. And I asked her, I said, Miss, did you know this was an Underground Railroad. She said, sir, not only did I not know it, I'm a graduate of Ohio State. I didn't even know the marker was here.
Well,
A black man that was majored in African American studies.
I think that's a different thing, though, where people aren't really hyper aware of what's going on in their surroundings in their community. You know, that's not the kind of thing that you would read in a textbook necessarily. I mean, let me
talking about the
just off the
Ohio
top,
State University.
just off the top of my head. I mean, I can think of a few figures that the people creating the historical curriculum, in public schools taught me, and I bet they taught you, is like Frederick Douglass. You learned about Frederick Douglass in public school, right?
Okay.
How about George Washington Carver? Everybody learns about him.
Yeah.
Harriet Tubman.
Harriet Tubman.
Who are some of the other big ones? I mean, we get into the arts. Everybody reads like Maya Angelou.
But what I'm saying is, man, there's so much more.
Of course,
to this.
of course, but you just get the broad strokes in public school. They're trying to teach people national pride and focus on the highest beats. Like it's sort of like if you are going to get into a new musician, you don't know anything about it, so you might listen to the greatest hits. You want to hear the highest notes, the best examples to really get you into it. And I think that's what they're doing with kids.
But like you said, you were doing research on the NAACP.
Yeah.
All right, and I told you 15th Street Presbyterian Church, founded by John F. Cook Sr. was the founder of that church. But Henry Highland Garnett was the pastor of that church. And that's the only church that has ever gone on the floor of Congress where the pastor and the choir performed. On the floor of Congress is 15th Street Presbyterian Church, Henry Highland Garnett.
That's cool. You know what I'd like to do is have you show me some of like the protest sites. That's what I'm really interested in, is the history of protest and how it worked, how it went down, what kind of tactics were used. That stuff is fascinating to me.
Well,
I think that's a history.
Okay, so let's talk about protests
that people can be proud of, right?
Okay, so let's talk about protests. See, black people didn't have the same rights as you when it came to protesting.
I know I don't have very much rights right now.
No. But see, you got more rights than you want to let on to.
Not really. I face oppression.
No, man. You got more rights than you let on to.
They won't even let me protest when I get a damn permit.
And why is that?
Because they're opposed to the message.
And why is that?
I don't know. Anti-free speech, anti-Americanism is on an upward swing. People don't want people that they disagree with to be able to have a voice. They want to attack people in the streets.
Is there anything wrong with your message?
Me personally, no. But even people who have something wrong with their message deserve to be able to speak their minds under the American form of government.
Man, let me ask you, and if you don't want to talk about this, you just came out of a big trial. How you feel about that?
Well, I mean, it's complicated, obviously. I feel like there were a lot of mistakes that were made, and I'm trying to learn from that and move on.
Do you think the decision was fair?
No. Like some of the things were based more on compromises that were going on in the jury room, I think, and people wanting to get home for Thanksgiving. Some of their findings just have no evidentiary basis, and so I think are going to be overturned on appeal.
Okay.
I mean, basically, they said that they found that there was a civil conspiracy that was only worth $1. Like, how do you have a civil conspiracy that's only worth $1? Saying that, and basically their whole basis was me saying if the far left extremists, the Antifa, come and attack you, if they throw the first punch, you can punch them back. You have a right to defend yourself. And that's literally true. I don't see how that can be questionable at all. So I think that they were just responding to political pressure.
Well, some of the other people that was on trial with you didn't help the case either.
Yeah, some of them were not good people. I agree.
Okay, so
Some of them
you
are
gotta,
pretty reprehensible.
yeah, you gotta go along with. They had
But
to take all of that.
I'm not like those other people. I kind of got caught up in the mix with them, and people don't want to differentiate. I guess the jury makes
You the guy in the car.
in the car. I'm not in the car. What are you talking about?
They were in the bank. You was in the car.
Well, in the car means something very specific in this the context of this protest. So I would not say I was in the car.
No, not that car. But I'm talking about they grouping all y'all together.
Yeah.
Not so
Yeah,
it
they
don't
didn't
it
wanna
don't matter.
differentiate.
Yeah, who it is.
But
you gonna still be in the car with them.
some of these people, like, they went through all our social media accounts. They went through my text messages. They got to see everything that I was saying in private. You know what I'm saying? And some of these guys, they had like really awful, like hideous things to say in private. They didn't really see anything like that about me. I'm not really talking about other people. I'm not talking about black people or Jewish people very much at all. I'm trying to focus on my people. But me being stuck in the context of all these other people saying horrible and awful things, reflects poorly on me. It was a mistake for me to have involved myself with a lot of those folks. And under a normal circumstance, you get involved with some people and you don't fit in with them, and you go your separate ways. But because of this lawsuit and because it was such a disaster, because the police stood down and let people fight, I've been chained to these people who are not like me for 4 years. And I've just been painted with the same brush as them. It's not fair, it's not right, but it is what it is.
Why do you think you get so much pushback from advocating for white folks?
Well, part of it is guilt by association with these other people. And then there are folks who believe that I'm hiding something. That's a common thing, that they make it sound like it's optics to be clean and to focus on just positive things about your own people rather than negative things about others. And that's not true. I think that was shown in the trial by the lack of any kind of race hatred that I had for other people. But then finally, I think that there's people who don't believe that white people should have civil rights organizations, that they should have advocates. And I think that that's a bigoted and backwards view of things. I think what's going on in our country right now, where everybody has groups that are advocating for them, you can't have one group that isn't allowed to advocate for themselves and is in fact afraid to speak up for themselves. You got to have people treat each other as equals and speak, man to man and woman to woman or whatever, and until we have that, you're always going to have a culture of fear where people can't really speak their minds to one another.
Man, if you had to do this all over again, what would you do differently?
I would work with totally different people. I wouldn't have worked with the alt-right. The alt-right wasn't what I thought it was. I wouldn't have worked with people like Richard Spencer. I would try to work with more moderate white people, and I would work with, Jewish people, black people. I would be much more sensitive to the concerns of my critics, because I don't want people to feel afraid or intimidated or threatened in any way by what I'm trying to do. But in some ways, you can't really have too many regrets in life, because you just have to look at the mistakes you made at the time and say, well, I was suffering from ignorance now, and sometimes you have to go through a lot of pain and suffering to gain wisdom.
Man, that's good stuff. I guess, man, I hope y'all enjoyed this, man. If you got a question, put it up there. I'd be glad to ask. If you got a question for him, because we got to get out of here. I need
to get going. It's time for me to go to my next thing here.
Okay. Man, you got anything else you want to say to the people, man?
Yeah, if you want to check out more of what I'm about, my website is jasonkessler.us. I'm on Twitter at the Mad Dimension. You can follow my link tree, and then I'll take you to my Telegram and all of my other links that are out there.
All right, y'all got that. Okay,
Have a great day.
Hey man, thanks, man. Thank
Yep.
you. Let's do this
Good to
again,
see you again.
man. Let's do this again.
Yeah, it's fun.
Okay. All right. So y'all, I'm gone. I see y'all.